let's go ahead and send it over to our next segment so you can find out what the top 10 is. Send it to our next segment, Level 10.
Welcome to Level 10. In this segment, me and Logan have put together a combined Star Wars top 10. This time around, we will be doing top 10 Jedi. Now, we have put together a singular top 10 with input from the both of us, with 2 honorable mentions. I will now send it over to Logan to talk about the first honorable mention.
The first honorable mention on our top 10 Jedi list is going to be Rey. Now, this is honestly one that it's an honorable mention for a reason. We thought about throwing it into the top 10, but we feel like Rey just doesn't have the amount of content with her in it. We're waiting for this Rey movie to come out, and I'm expecting her to creep into this top 10. But for now, she's going to stay as an honorable mention.
Our second honorable mention is Count Dooku. Now, Count Dooku is a good one here because me and Logan kind of feel like he is kind of what the Jedi should be molded as, but he took it a little bit too far. Like we've seen in Tales of the Jedi, with him, force choking the senator for kind of how he was treating his people. Like, he took it a little too far with what he was given, but nonetheless, we'll be throwing Count Dooku in the honorable mention.
The number 10 on our top 10 Jedi list is going to be Luminara Unduli. Now, we do see a decent amount of her in the Clone Wars. We don't get a lot of content with her in the movies, but the Clone Wars does just enough. We see a lot of her actually in action, but a lot of teaching moments with her, Barriss, which, granted, not a great track record there with how Barriss ended up, but still teaching moments with Ahsoka, even Anakin. A lot of teaching moments there. Very by the book, a little bit to her detriment, but still great Jedi nonetheless. I think 10 is a good spot. Definitely teetering, though.
Yeah, for sure. No, I definitely feel like she is a very good teacher for, all these different Padawans. But, I think having her at 10 is a good spot. I really do. With the list that we have, I think she is perfect for that top 10 spot. Now, number 9, Plo Koon. I mean, Plo Koon, a fan favorite, and for good reason. I mean, he was one of the Jedi that really connected with the clones. Didn't see them as clones, seen them as human beings. Kind of like how we relate to them as well. I mean, not to mention his character arc in the Clone Wars. Like, he didn't really have much of a character in the prequels. The Clone Wars really expanded on his character, made him beloved. And I mean, I can't ask for much more.
And a great, I don't even want to say teacher, really somewhat of a father figure to Ahsoka.
Yeah.
And I think just him and his wisdom, he's on the council, really deserves that top 10 spot. A great duelist, as they say. And I think he's pretty old. I think his species is pretty old. So
yes.
you gotta expect those years to bring some wisdom along with it. So I think number 9 is a great spot.
Yep.
But now into our number 8 on our top 10 Jedi list, Kanan Jarrus. This one, honestly, I would love to put him higher. I honestly would. He's in that Count Dooku discussion of very much what a Jedi should be.
100%.
And it's funny to say that because I feel like a majority of his life is sort of self-taught.
Mm-hmm.
He experiences Order 66 very young and goes on, teaches Ezra as a Padawan, and coming from Depa Billaba, another Jedi Council member, Kanan he's willing to put his attachments away, put them to the side, but also realize when it's time to actually care for those attachments. We see his moment in Rebels where he sacrifices himself. He realizes that is the moment that he needs to do it to save the people he loves. So I think 8's, I don't even want to say it's a perfect spot because I'd love to put him higher, but for our list, it's about as good as we can get it.
Yeah, no, I love Kanan. His character arc in Rebels was great. Seeing him struggle to teach Ezra at first, because he was really struggling. He didn't know how to teach somebody else. And then he met the Bendu, and that really kind of, him going blind really had him open up his eyes in a sense.
I was going to say that, yeah. Him going blind did the opposite of what you would think it would do.
Yeah, nah, that with him meeting the Bendu and him giving so much advice to him, I mean, it was the perfect combination for him, and he turned out to be a great teacher to not only Ezra but Sabine as well. So, I think 8 is a really good spot.
He defeats Maul.
He does.
Blind.
It's dude. That's so cold, dude.
He has to go in the number 8 spot. Like I said, I would love to put him higher.
Of course. Now moving on to our number 7, Mace Windu. I mean, I think this is a good spot for Mace as well. I will say I do like Kanan a little better, but I think with how powerful Mace is, not to mention, I mean, he has a lot of wisdom too. Obviously, he's on the council. He's the second most powerful Jedi at the time, right behind Yoda. And his teaching style, while not my favorite, but I feel like it's effective with the way he gets his point across, and
very by the book.
Yes, very by the book. He's very stern, I guess you could say, with his answers and how he treats people. But I think 7 is a good spot, honestly. I mean, I don't know. What are you thinking right now?
I think he does deserve some more praise, but I feel like him and his attachment to the Republic, I feel like he was more devoted to the Republic than he was the Jedi, which is what brings him down a step for me. He's probably one of the greatest duelists of all time. He's mastered every single form of lightsaber combat, and he's another one that he is old when he dies.
Yeah.
Just so many years. He has his great traits, but he also has his downsides. So I think 7 is good for him, but there's some things that could have made him go higher or lower depending on how you may view it. But yeah, I think 7's a perfect spot.
I like it.
Moving on to our number 6 on the list, Qui-Gon Jinn. Now, this is another one I would have loved to put higher.
Oh, yeah, of course.
How we really see, very similar to Count Dooku. Very much what a Jedi should be. Very similar to Kanan. Qui-Gon, being the Padawan of Dooku, was exactly Dooku, but didn't take it too far.
Yep.
Which is as perfect as I feel like I can see it in my mind. Was a great teacher for Anakin. Unfortunate of his passing. But I feel like Qui-Gon, in terms of this top 10 Jedi list, is at this spot purely because of the way he attacks being a Jedi. The way he goes about it, we're not bringing in lightsaber combat, nothing like that. This is pure wisdom and the way he operates being a Jedi. And he does it basically to perfection, almost leaving the order. He did not want to be on the council. So I don't know. I think number 6, perfect spot for him. Jeff
Oh yeah, I mean,
would love to put him higher, but there's too many good ones.
I would absolutely adore to put him higher, but no, I think I think you had to put him 6. Even though I think his ideology and just the way he goes about things, I think is like the perfect way that every Jedi should have been.
Mhm.
If I was a young Padawan, roaming in the council chambers and all that, I would look up to a guy like Qui-Gon.
Yeah.
Stand up person. He's a great Jedi. I think he's a great Jedi, but he's an even greater person. I think that's like the perfect way I can describe him.
Mm-hmm.
So I think, while I want to put him higher, 6 is a good spot for him. It's very
Qui-Gon always had the compassion, which
exactly.
I feel like every Jedi lacked. Anakin even says that compassion within the Jedi Code is essential to a Jedi's life. But then during that era, no Jedi has compassion.
Yeah.
And Qui-Gon did. Man, we should change the list right now. No, I'm joking. He's going to be at 6.
Yeah. Now, moving on to our number 5, Ahsoka Tano. Another fan favorite. We had to put her in the top 5. I mean, from her being the most hated character to the most beloved. I mean, you could talk about so much here, because she's in so much stuff. Her character growth, she keeps growing as a character even now still.
Yeah.
But from, her being a great duelist to having a great knowledge of the Force to understanding the Force and the way it works, like, I mean, you could go on and on about these things. But, the white lightsabers, like, come on, like, that's so cool. That's so cool. But nah, her character growth has been great. Obviously she had Anakin as a teacher, which I think helped her a lot. And I thought Anakin was a really good teacher because similar to Qui-Gon, I guess I could say that. So nah, we had to throw at 5 here.
Yeah, it's very blurred lines whether you want to consider her a Jedi or not.
Yes.
And I think there's been some controversy as of late whether she's a Jedi or not, whether you should call her a Jedi or not. It's kind of just, this list is called Top 10 Jedi for the sake of we don't want to call it Top 10 light side Force users that wield a lightsaber, because, I mean, that's basically a Jedi, but that's Ahsoka. She doesn't want to be called a Jedi, but hey, she's a Jedi. I could just have to say.
She thinks like a Jedi. She thinks like a Jedi.
Yeah, she might not be in the order. Like, Kanan's a Jedi, but he didn't have a Jedi order at one point.
Yeah, no.
So I'm still going to consider him a Jedi, so I'm going to consider Ahsoka a Jedi to some degree. And like you said, being taught by Anakin, you bring that, you have the compassion.
Yeah.
I think compassion is such a big thing. It really is.
I agree.
You see it with Ahsoka. You see it with Qui-Gon. You see it with Anakin. You see it with Luke. You see it with so many of these top tier Jedi. It's there for a reason. And Ahsoka is just, her growth, her ability with her lightsabers, the dual wield. This is, I believe, the only dual wielding Jedi on the list.
Yep.
If I'm not mistaken, there's not many of them, but she's
true, but...
I mean, she's sweet and probably one of the best characters in all of Star Wars, if I have to say that. So number 5, great spot. But to go ahead and move into our number 4 on the list, maybe a little bit too low to some people, but it's a tough decision out here.
It is
number 4,
tough.
Luke Skywalker. I mean, it's tough. It's tough. I think the biggest thing is this is talking strictly about canon. We are not bringing in any sort of legends discussion. which I think a lot of content with Luke as a Jedi and as a Jedi Master you see in Legends. All we have of him is, his few moments in like Mando, Book of Boba Fett, and then you have the original trilogy and the sequels.
Mm-hmm.
And you see a lot of him failing. You see a lot of failure. You see a lot of success. You see him successfully bring Darth Vader back to the light.
Yep.
The compassion, like I said, he's got it. And I don't know, in that regard, perfect Jedi. But then I also think as he grows into a teacher himself, he kind of falls into the same faults of the other Jedi, where he's too by the book. And you see in episode 8 that Yoda, again teaching Luke, he says, they are what we grow beyond. And talking about the Jedi texts, they're not, you don't have to do everything by the book. And I think Luke learns there, and having him learn so late is just part of being a Jedi. But I just think, had he been the man he was basically when he died, had he been that man as he became a Jedi Master, he would be probably number 1. But that's not the canon story that we see. And I think number 4 is where he falls for those reasons. I think he has some shortcomings, but we obviously know Luke as the hero of Star Wars.
Oh yeah, his arc in the original trilogy was just, it was great. I loved his arc in the original trilogy from episode 4 to, like I guess people kind of call him kind of like a whiny, teenager and living on his aunt and uncle's like moisture farm, and then him going to basically defeat the Galactic Empire. Defeat Palpatine and, bring Darth Vader, Anakin, his father, back, with that compassion. He wanted to, I've got to save you. That line is just, it's top tier. It is top tier because you can see that Luke really does want to save his father.
Yeah.
And even, in the sequels, like, I didn't like it at first, but as the years have gone on, I don't mind his story in the sequels either. The great, you have to learn through failure. And that's kind of what Luke did in the original trilogy. Like in episode 5 when he went to go try and save Leia and Han and Chewbacca from Vader on Bespin. He wasn't ready, and Yoda told him that, but he went anyway, and he failed because he didn't beat Vader. And then when he meets Vader again on the Death Star in episode 6, he defeats him because he was ready. So, I think that his character is great. Obviously, some people will disagree with the placement of him, but 4 I think is a really good spot still because we got some heavy hitters here in the top 3.
Yeah, and one thing I do want to bring up is probably, hold on, there's a monster truck.
Okay. Got that.
Probably the most underrated thing with Luke that he is in, I do see some people talk about it, is in Star Wars Battlefront 2 2017. He has a little scene in the story where he saves the Imperial guy, and the guy asks him, "Why'd you save me?" Because they're obviously on opposite sides, and Luke says something along the lines of, "Well, it looked like you needed help." Like that's just what a Jedi should do.
That is, that I know exactly what scene you're talking about from that game, and I played it. I remember being like, that's a Jedi. That is what a Jedi is supposed to be.
Yeah. And I feel like his character arc going into the sequels was very similar to his original trilogy one, where it's kind of just a failure into learning, into succeeding over again. Which, like you said, I also don't mind it either. So think it's
Mhm.
great form, great placement, and that's about it. Number 4 is
Yep.
Luke.
I love it. Now going into our number 3, Anakin Skywalker. Now this is coming in from two Anakin fanboys, I guess you could
Yeah.
say. Yeah, I just feel like overall with the way that he thought, because we relate him to Qui Gon a lot, and
Hmm.
he does show that compassion that we keep talking about. Not to mention, I mean his power level also, if we want to bring that into account, his
Yeah.
power level is insane. Um, One of the best duelists that we've seen. I mean, that battle with Obi-Wan and Mustafar, I mean, absolutely insane. And then, him the just I hate to see the tragedy of Anakin,
Hmm.
but it had to happen. So, he falls to the dark side due to his relationships and the Jedi and all that. But then you can kind of see him being redeemed. I think his story, because Star Wars has always kind of been about Anakin, 1 through 6, like that's what it was about. It was Anakin,
Yeah.
essentially. Um, and his story is just, I mean, it's phenomenal. It's my favorite story of all time. I love the story. His character is just so relatable. Um, because once he was Darth Vader, everybody just turned their back on him. That's what it felt like
Yeah.
when they needed to be there for him. So I love having him in the top 3 just because I love Anakin a lot. So
Yeah. I think a lot of people would, because there's a certain line you got to draw where you make your own decisions. At the end of the day, Anakin made his own decision,
yeah,
but that decision was influenced by the people around him, and to that extent, I feel like the Jedi did fail Anakin.
hmm
Not completely, because he did make the decision himself,
hmm
but he was definitely encouraged by the Jedi to make the decision he did. There
yeah,
was little to no help there. The Jedi were definitely beginning to lose their way, and I feel like Anakin was just caught in the crossfire there. Uh, like you said, phenomenal duelist, probably top 2, maybe top
yeah,
1 when it comes to that.
yeah.
He is. It was a very tough decision between him and Luke within this
Oh
spot.
yeah,
I
it
feel like
was
they're
it
very interchangeable within the 3 and 4 spot.
for sure.
But Anakin's the chosen one.
hmm
He's the chosen one. I feel like that's enough explanation there. He's got to go here. He's got to go number 3. The other 2 above him are definitely deserving of those 2 spots. But I also wouldn't be opposed to putting Anakin higher as well. So, not mad at it. Think it's still a great spot. Moving into our number 2 on the top 10 Jedi list, Obi-Wan Kenobi. This is just, I mean, I feel like it's self explanatory.
Yep.
A teacher to so many, and a
hmm
teacher to the number 3. You know?
Yep.
He. I feel like he did have some traits from Qui Gon. He was
Oh,
st-
for sure.
he was kind of a mix of Qui Gon and Mace Windu, if you can even imagine that, because they're like kind of polar opposites. But
Yeah, yeah.
Obi-Wan was somehow a combination of those two. He was still very by the book, but understood Qui-Gon. He understood Anakin. He even thought about leaving the Order himself.
Yep.
And I think his wisdom, the things that he went through, make him this high on this list. You learn from experience, and he experienced hell.
Oh yeah.
So I think number 2 is perfect for him, for everything that he's went through, everything that he's learned, and everything that he's passed on. I think number 2 makes sense for him.
Yeah, I love number 2. The amount of stuff that he went throughout his life and he never turned. I think that's like the
Yeah.
best part about him. He never turned to the dark side, not even once. And eventually kind of leading Luke on and kind of passing the torch to him, I guess. I mean, he's just a great character. He's a great character, phenomenal force user. He's phenomenal duelist as well. I mean, he was Anakin, like you said, probably top 2 duelist. Obi-Wan was able to just, hold. I don't want to say hold his ground because he was on the defense a lot, like on the defensive
Hmm.
side of things, but he was able to fend off all that onslaught, all that, the hatred through all the strikes that Anakin had, and eventually defeat him. So, I mean, dare I say, one of the smartest as well. I mean, his
Yeah.
knowledge was top tier.
I mean, like you said, he's mainly on the defensive, and that's what a Jedi's supposed to be. You're not supposed to be attacking,
No.
and that's just another trait of being a Jedi.
Yep.
And him not falling to the dark side, I think one thing that you really get to see that makes you realize that Qui-Gon still had an influence on him is the fact that he cannot bring himself to kill Anakin
Yeah,
because he
and
does still have some compassion within him.
on multiple occasions he couldn't do it.
Multiple occasions.
Yep. So,
And yeah, I think that's just having him be a mixture of Mace and Qui-Gon is just as close as you can get, really.
yes,
Like
no, I
you're
agree.
that's insane. So number 2 is
Yeah.
perfect, but I think our number 1, it's obvious at this point, but
Yeah.
Mark, why don't you go ahead and reveal it for him?
Well, our number 1 is Yoda. I mean, could there have been anybody else here?
I
You
don't
know,
I don't
his
think so.
from his wisdom to the amount of years and experience he has to the amount of students that he has taught, and just throughout the what he has learned through his students as well. I mean,
Hmm.
he the I just love seeing him teach like
Yeah.
anybody. Like when he was training with Luke, do or do not, there is no try. And then episode 7, when he was talking about growing through failure, and the
Episode
only way
8.
that you can, or episode 8, sorry, correct me. In episode 8, when he was basically just saying that the the best teacher is failure. I mean, he just drops like bars and just spits facts left and right. And not only not only for Star Wars, but just life lessons too. I mean,
Yeah.
the best way to learn is through failure, because then you won't repeat that same mistake again. A
And
great duelist, great force user. I mean, need I say more?
yeah,
Right?
and in terms of lightsaber combat, when I was talking about Anakin being top 2, it would be Anakin and Yoda. Like
Yeah,
and that's how they say it in the
I agree.
movies as well.
I agree.
Like Obi-Wan, you would almost rival Yoda as a swordsman. Like
Mm,
it's self-explanatory there that he's just that good dueling. He's got that much wisdom to him. And I think it's so funny how we've referenced this scene in episode 8 a bunch of times. Said it before, we are what they grow beyond. Talking
mhm.
about how the apprentice will outgrow the master. But somehow, like he's talking about how his apprentice will always teach him something, but he is teaching something to his apprentice about how the apprentice will teach him, and somehow it works.
Yeah.
It's that just blows my mind. it's,
No, it's
it's so
insane. It's
funny.
insane. Yeah. No,
And
it's
so many teaching moments, the lineage that he has, how many people he has taught, how many Padawans, over 900 years. You got to think there's just so much that has gone on. He's very similar to Obi-Wan in the same way that he's been through so much and he's learned so much throughout that, and that's why he's as wise as he is. So number 1 just makes perfect sense for him.
well, that is our top 10 Jedi list. Hopefully, you agree with us. If not, go ahead and leave a comment. Let us know your top 10, because we are very interested in your guys' top 10s. And also, if you have any idea for a top 10 list, anything in Star Wars, go ahead and let us know down in the comments as well. Leave a like, and we'll go ahead and send it back to the boys at the desk.